All right, we are live, then.
All right.
Come on.
Hey,
Yo,
what's
yo,
going on?
yo.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate you. It's been a while since our U of MMA days, right?
Yes, it has. It's been
Yeah,
a
for
couple
sure.
of years. Couple of years.
Couple
So
of
what's
years.
going on here is we've got the incomparable Shohei Yamamoto here with us. The man doesn't do much interviews, and we are very blessed to have him in our midst. We got Shohei Yamamoto. You got the incomparable, according to Woods, A-to-Day Woods with us here. So we are about to bless the world with the one and only Shohei Yamamoto. Let's go. How you doing, Shohei?
I'm doing all right, man. Appreciate you guys for inviting me over.
Yeah, the pleasure's all ours, man. The pleasure's all ours.
Yeah.
As Shohei was mentioning, he and I were in the amateurs together over at the U of MMA, and one of the greatest experience of my life, man. I saw this fella, Asian fella. My wife is Japanese, so I could tell this fella is Japanese. I went up to him and I said, "Hey, man, are you Japanese, bro?" He says, "Yeah, you know." So we sparked a conversation, and we started. And the more I spoke to him, I realized, this is not your average human being. And I've always been curious. I've always wanted to know more about this fella. And you know what I mean? The Shohei Yamamoto fella. What makes him tick? Why is he so good at what he does? What are his beginnings like? And this is why we are here today, to find out just that. We want to know, what is the beginning of Shohei Yamamoto? Where did all this happen? How did all this happen? So, Shohei, start from the very beginning, man. What got you into martial arts, or who got you into martial arts?
Well, you probably see me at the U of MMA a little bit different from everybody else. That's first off, there's not that many Asian people fighting right now at the current moment, and my background is a little bit different from your average MMA fighter. My background, I started Kyokushin Karate when I was 6 years old. I'm 32 now. I still continue. I'm teaching right now, but I started Kyokushin Karate at 6 years old, and it all began with just starting off at your local karate studio, right? So I started off with like a middle school karate studio, and it was just your everyday average martial arts school. Then my dad one day, my father, just saw a magazine, a Japanese magazine, is Introduction Kyokushin Karate, and the instructor during that time just came off the sixth world tournament over in Japan, and he ranked top 32. And that was the introduction in the magazine. So he's like, we got to go here. But the thing is, we lived in Oceanside, California, which is San Diego County, and the dojo was located in downtown LA. So my dad actually drove from Oceanside, California to downtown LA. Hour and a half, 2 hour drive through traffic just to take me there so he could actually introduce me to what he thought was authentic karate. Okay, so yeah, so ever since then we drove maybe once a week. Ever since I was 6 years old or so, to train in downtown LA at Shihan Taku Nakasaka's dojo. And during that time, there was only one location, but now we have over four locations that he owns. First, it started off with once a week. Then, as I got hooked into it, we started going 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Then, 1 year later, I competed in the All Japan junior tournaments when I was 8 years old. And that tournament was like out of this world. It's nothing like I've ever seen. Even in America, you won't see that kind of a tournament, right? Over 1,000 kids all over Japan compete in this one tournament in a big stadium. There's 6 mats, right? And each individual division has over 100 kids, right? So in my division, like anywhere from 8 to 9 years old, had over 110 participants. And out of the 110 participants, in order to be first, you would have to win about 6 matches, 6 or 7, maybe 7 matches in a day, since it's a tournament racket, right? During my first tournament, I won about 4 or 5 matches, and I was able to go to the semifinals. And luckily, by luck, or just because maybe I was a little bit bigger than your average like Japanese kid, just being raised out here, maybe eating more protein. My diet was a little bit different, maybe a little bit more bigger, and I guess through my physical prowess, I became 4th place during that time. But ever since then, we're like, next year we're gonna go. Let's get 1st place, right? We set a goal for ourselves. So ever since then, we just been trying to compete and get that 1st place. But yeah, tournaments are really tough, man. Even the next year after that, I still, maybe I lost the 1st round, 2nd round. Yeah, then ever since then, we started just setting a new goal for ourselves, right? Then when I became in high school, I was able to win the World Junior Championship, which they held over in Japan. Over when I was 8 years old, they didn't have that back then yet. But as Kyokushin karate grew all over the world, many competitors from Europe, Russia, even America, but I was only a competitor that actually really took it seriously in the junior category. And I was able to win 1st place when I was 16 years old in the World Junior tournaments. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. Kyokushin karate is really big in Russia, right? So most of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place, you might have like another Japanese guy, but most of the time it's just all Russians. Yeah. So I was able to win 1st place in that, and the year after that, when I was 17 years old, I was able to defend it and win twice in a row for that one. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's kind of cool that you almost took a more traditional route to karate, because I mean, especially in North America, most people's way about being introduced to karate was like Bruce Lee or Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers, and I mean, you kind of have been to shows here in Southern California where it's very much that way, but you basically went the traditional deal, not so much influenced by the pop culture kind of view of karate, but something more traditional. And where does that come from? Like the honor to kind of tip your hat to like the traditional styles and ways of karate.
Honestly, I was that was the first thing I was introduced to. Before MMA was big or anything like that, I started Kyokushin karate. Say, I was 6 or 7 years old during that time. But the thing about Kyokushin karate, I always thought, K1 was pretty big during that time. Like when I was a kid growing up, and a lot of the top Kyokushin competitors, they would compete in the Kyokushin World Tournament, and I saw them expand into K1 kickboxing. For example, some of the legendary Kyokushin karate fighters that converted over to K1, Francisco Filio, Nicolas Perez, Glaude Feitosa. I saw all those people as I was growing up, and in a way, I was inspired, right? I was like, man, I see these guys going over there and killing it, and I actually get to meet them in person a couple of times when I was a little bit younger, but they definitely inspired me. And thing about Kyokushin karate competition that I always thought was, obviously there's no face punching in the tournament bracket, but there are kicks. So the attacks you could do are limited within the tournament rule set. So the Kyokushin karate that I was practicing and training every single day, I wanted to make sure that you could apply it in actual like more freestyle of combat. And the best way to do it is MMA, right? Not only you're fighting against other Kyokushin karate practitioners, you fight against basically anything like wrestling, boxing, different backgrounds, kickboxing, right? So the karate that I was training, I wanted to make sure that it not only works against other karate practitioners, but also it just works in general, right? So this is one of the reasons why I started training MMA, because I want to make sure my Kyokushin karate was genuine and it works against people of all aspects, people of different martial arts. One of the reasons,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That is the next connection right there. So, Kyokushin Karate was your foundation, your base. Now, at some point, it became MMA. This is the next question I was going to ask you. So, how did you link up with CSW?
Okay, so then again, once again, my dad was like a maniac in everything that he wanted me to do. He wanted me to do what's best, the very best out there. So just like Kyokushin Karate, he looked in the magazine and saw a great dojo over in downtown LA. Next thing you know, when I said to my dad, my father, I wanted to start MMA, and put kind of Kyokushin Karate to the side and start competing in MMA. He looked over all sorts of martial arts magazine to try to find the place where I would start. And the place that he thought he saw in the magazine where he researched was Sensei Yori Nakamura, who is the USA director of Shuto, or USA Shuto. And he happened to be teaching at the Inosato Academy in Marina del Rey during that time. So he sent me over there after calling and making sure that Sensei Yori was there. So I trained under Sensei Yori Nakamura in Shuto when I was 19 years old for about a year. But thing about Inosato Academy during that time was it wasn't really a gym for fighters per se. Even though he's a great instructor, he raised Eric Paulson, who became the first foreign champion over in Shuto over in Japan. Then eventually, after I trained with him a year, he sent me over to CSW, and that's how I got connected with Coach Eric Paulson, Coach Josh Barnett. Yep.
Which it's funny because former CXF champion, much like yourself, Shohei, Tyrion Flashware says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was for me. But also Kyokushin was his first martial art as well. So you guys are linked not just by the belts, the CXF belts, but also your first discipline in martial arts. I think that's pretty fun.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, that's good to know. Huh. I'm thinking like what dojo he might have trained out of, because there's not that many around per se in USA. So I would like to know maybe where he started next time.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Which I mean, it's kind of fun because training at CSW, it seems like your kind of way about going about things was like Oceanside to LA, Oceanside to downtown LA, and all that jazz. So the fact that CSW a little bit closer, Fullerton, California, is a little bit closer to Oceanside in terms of logistics. So I mean, obviously, it's not like you're taking a downgrade in training because, again, the great Eric Paulson, but, it has to be cool to be a little bit closer to home.
Well, during that time, I was already like 19 or 20 years old. So I was going to school over in Cal State Long Beach during that time. So I was already living in the Long Beach area. So it wasn't as far as, driving from Oceanside to downtown LA. Yeah, but per se in the beginning, my dad took a lot of sacrifice taking me to the gym when I was like still in elementary school. In order to get to downtown LA from Oceanside, it takes like maybe 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours, depending on the traffic, right? And before the tournament, he would actually drive maybe 3 times a week to try to get me prepared for the All Japan tournament when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So the thing is, after school, he would pick me up in the beginning. After school, he would pick me up, and we go right over to downtown LA, straight to the dojo to train, and I would do the homework. I would do my homework while he's driving inside the car. But after a while, the driving kind of takes a toll, and everything. So he would actually pick me up during lunch, right? When I was like 9 years old, he would pick me up during lunch so we could skip the traffic time and actually get there an hour and a half, right? So skipping school in a way was to go to martial arts practice was kind of like a weekly normal thing for me during that time. Believe it or not. And every single time, my teacher would hear my name from the office, Shohei Yamamoto. She would shake her head like this, look down, shake her head, because she knows I'm going over there for karate training, skipping school to go to karate training.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Hell
not
yeah.
your everyday normal thing, right? All other people are jealous of me, though, for sure. They're like, oh, you get to go over there, right?
Hey, Yamamoto-san. For our American audience, a lot of people throw the name karate around to describe all things martial arts. Anytime that you're wearing a kimono that's white, oh, karate. You're in Taekwondo, karate. Correct. Can you please help our American audience understand the essence of Kyokushin? See, I did karate as well, but mine was Shotokan karate under Hiroyutsu Fujishima. 8th degree black belt in Kyokushin. He studied under Kanazawa Sensei. So I know the difference. But for our American audience, please help them understand just how much more lethal Kyokushin karate is.
Which, before we get to that, giving a little bit of context, Tyrion Flashware says the rec center in my neighborhood that my sensei taught, he didn't actually have a dojo. You said there weren't very many gyms in LA aside from the ones in downtown LA. I actually visited the ones in downtown LA, and so it's a small world.
Oh wow!
Hey, shout out to the Flash, by the way. I saw him at the last LFA LXF. Lights out. The lights out. I saw him over there. It was so good to see you, Flash. Shout out to you.
Yeah, I actually know Flash a little bit. We trained together at CMA before. He's a great person. He's a very technical guy. I enjoy sparring and training with him. So shout out to Terry. Yep.
So with Voodoo's question, in terms of what was the question, Voodoo?
Well, pretty much, I know the difference between Kyokushin karate and, for example, Shotokan karate and all the other types of karate that are out there. I believe that Kyokushin is the most lethal out of all of them. Now, from you being a practitioner, could you please express for our American audience what I'm talking about?
Okay, so from what I'm aware, for example, you have Shotokan karate, you have Kyokushin karate, you have Kempo karate, you have Okinawa karate, right? So basically, karate started off in Okinawa and split into many different forms along the way. And one of the main, probably one of the most popular ones you see throughout the world is full contact style karate and point style karate. Point style karate is maybe the ones like Shotokan karate in competition where you strike, but you pull back at the very last minute. And that is, you win by points. Then another one is, such as Kyokushin karate, is full contact style karate, where it's founded by Sosai Masa Oyama. He trained Goju-ryu karate, Shotokan karate, and he wanted to make something a little bit different and create his own style. And that became the birthmark of Kyokushin karate. And the difference between Shotokan karate, Kyokushin karate is more full contact style. So there's no pulling back during the strike. You go for the knockout within the rule set of the tournament. Okay, so Kyokushin Karate, before it became Kyokushin Karate, it was called Oyama Karate. And during that time, it was, 60s during the war. So there was no such thing as a tournament. So everything they did in sparring, there was no rule set. People, probably punched each other in the face, right? Kicked each other in the groin like it's a real fight. But as Oyama Karate became Kyokushin Karate and tournaments started forming, then now you have to have rule sets if you're going to do a tournament, right? Just for the safety of the practitioner. You can't be having people eye gouging each other or groin kick. I don't think as a tournament or to spread the martial arts, it would be a little bit difficult to do that. So in order to spread it, he had to have some sort of a rule set within the tournament. And the rule set was no bare knuckle, but punching below the head, but kicking, you pretty much kick anywhere. Low kick, middle kick, high kick. Full contact. So there's no pulling back, no gear. Only thing you wear during the tournament is a cup. That's about it. And when I first started Kyokushin Karate, actually before the downtown LA, there was a Kyokushin Karate dojo in Oceanside. I did it for like about a year and a half. But during that time, even though he had the instructor during that time had Kyokushin Karate logo that he was using, it wasn't an officially registered Kyokushin Karate dojo under the International Karate Organization. So in America, there's a lot of Kyokushin Karate dojos, but they're not registered within the International Karate Organization. So there is a little bit of question whether that style or that dojo in particular is authentic Kyokushin Karate, right? But either way, we thought, that was the authentic dojo. So I went over there and trained, and I was still 6 years old, but it was a pretty brutal dojo. I'm not gonna lie. We didn't wear any shin pads. We didn't wear any gloves. It was a full contact style sparring dojo. So we'd go over there, like 6-year-old kids, like beating on each other with no shin pads, no gloves, not even a cup. And the floor was concrete. So once in a while, you see a kid kicking and he falls, hit his head on the concrete. Yeah. So that's the background I came from. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's kind of crazy to think about, especially nowadays where kids online school and whatever, and they prick their finger, and it's absolute bedlam. So the fact that you guys are literally obviously learning the art, but I mean being able to practically engage in combat, right? Because I mean I remember I was kind of on karate because much like Terian, not that it was Kyokushin, I don't know the origins, but I went to a community center based karate program, and they were like, "Oh, we train you all of these styles and moves so you can not use it." And I was like, "The hell! I want to kick somebody in the face! Come on, what are you doing?"
Okay, let me tell you the origin of karate. It's a little bit different from what we're used to. We're used to in the Western sports, maybe two people get in the ring, and it's a closed-off space, so you only have those two people fighting each other and see who wins, right? Within the rule set, whether it be MMA or boxing. But the original origin of karate is not to see who is better or who is stronger. For example, Okinawa karate, where all the karate before it branched off into Shotokan or Kyokushin or Kempo karate started within Okinawa karate in Okinawa. The main purpose of that was for self-preservation, right? This is a little bit hard to relate, especially if you're raised out here or you're used to seeing combat sports, right? So karate, you train, and if you don't use it, if you don't have to use it, that's even better. If you could refrain from fighting, refrain from violence. that's the best option. So if someone starts a fight with you and you have to defend yourself, then that's the time you use karate. So in a way, if you use karate as a basis, going back to Okinawa karate, there is no attack where you initiate. It's always either you blocking and returning, or initiates after your attacker starts attacking you. So that's one difference between combat sports and maybe a martial arts like karate. But on the other hand, when Okinawa karate started branching off to say like Kyokushin karate, then that's when things started changing. Kyokushin karate, there are a lot of moves and attacks where you initiate. So Kyokushin karate, I would say, it's a little bit rougher around the edges. The founder Masao Oyama, he didn't want to do any more point sparring. He thought that pulling back on your punches was a little bit unrealistic at times. So he wanted to create something where it's close to real fighting as possible during that time. And that's how he came up with this full contact style karate. But one thing I would say, there are pros and cons to, I would say, point style karate and full contact style karate, right? So point style karate, since you don't strike all the way, you pull. Some of the things that's missing in full contact style karate, you have in point karate. Is some of the things that you are missing in point karate, you have in full contact style karate. If that makes sense.
Hey, to me, it makes perfect sense. I get what you're saying. See, when you have that point karate, what the greatest thing that you learn is control. Control. You throw at full speed, but yeah, you do not land. You stop on a dime, so to speak, and that is somewhat missing in full contact karate because you're just punching right through. So
Yeah.
I guess the point karate guy will learn more control than the full contact karate guy. Am I correct?
Yes, I totally agree. Distance and accuracy, precision is very important, I would say, in point karate style competition. But at the same time, Kyokushin karate or full contact style karate may have something that maybe the other styles don't have, which is durability, hardness, just overall toughness, because you're used to getting a beating, right? One of the things about difference between an MMA match and Kyokushin karate match, for her to say, is a tournament bracket. So you don't only have to worry about that one match that you're having tonight, but since, say, the world tournament is a 3-day tournament, so the first 1 or 2 matches you might have the first day. Then you're going to go on to the second day, third day. You're going to be fighting multiple people throughout the day. So not only have to worry about fighting one person, you have to worry about surviving and going on to the next with getting the minimal damage as possible. In order for you to win 7 matches in a row, you're going to have to go up those 7 matches with a minimal amount of damage as possible. If you're already getting beat up on your first match, then second and third match, the guys are going to see that, right? So they're going to exploit your weakness, exploit your damage. So that's one of the things I would think a little bit different compared to just having one match and having multiple matches throughout the day or throughout the week. Hey, Adam, I can't hear you. Sorry. I think there we go.
No, Tyrion Ware says thanks, gentlemen, and thank you, Tyrion. Much like Shohei being a constant purveyor of what a champion should be, both inside and outside of the mats and the cage. So thank you both, Voodoo Maximus as well. So you guys are great purveyors. Which Shohei, you touched on, those tournament style brackets and the longevity of it. And it kind of reverts back to me a comment made by your coach Josh Barnett, where people were ranking the best heavyweights and what have you, and greatest of all time in terms of MMA competition, right? And he was just like, well, if this guy is supposed to be the greatest, well, how many one night tournaments did they go through? They excel in this era of mixed martial arts, but not so much. Maybe wouldn't do as well in previous incarnations. So, are I say that to say, are you more a fan or opposed to tournament style brackets in combat sports, MMA specifically?
Oh well, definitely. I know that my coach Josh Barnett, back in the days when he was fighting in Pride, there was tournament rackets. So he would fight multiple people throughout the day. Yeah, I mean, I don't oppose that at all. I think it's a different game than just fighting one person throughout the night and versus fighting multiple people throughout the night. But at the end of the day, it all becomes, it's a competition. So whoever's the best is gonna be coming out victorious, right? But nowadays, you don't really see that too often. Tournaments, especially in America, I think there's commission rules and things like that. So they wanna allow it over here. So unfortunately, you don't really see it nowadays.
It's kind of a shame in one aspect of it, but again, different different game plans that you're kind of employing in terms of your training, where obviously if you're fighting for 3 times a year, versus 3 times in a night, it's going to be a different ideology that both you as a fighter are prepping for, but also the game plan that your coaches are employing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I was competing in Kyokushin Karate, there was only like maybe a couple tournaments throughout the day, right? So I mean throughout the year, there's a world tournament over in Japan. Especially as a junior, there's only a very couple. Um, but as we started progressing and Kyokushin Karate started spreading in LA area, my instructor started hosting tournaments of his own over in downtown LA. So children nowadays, even adults, they don't have to go all the way over to Japan like how I did to go and compete. Many of them still do, but you could also compete more locally since Kyokushin Karate is starting to spread out in America. More so, there are some East Coast dojos as well, but mostly in the West Coast. More tournaments over here. But one thing I would say about competing at your own local area versus going out and competing is you get to explore and experience different cultures, right? So even though I'm Japanese, my parents are from Japan. I'm born over here, born and raised over here. I do carry a lot of the Japanese culture, and I'm raised by Japanese families. But to actually go out there and to experience this big tournament where thousand other kids are competing in the same thing and trying to win the tournament is just a different sort of experience that you can't really experience at your local tournament. You have kids all over from Japan, Russia, Europe, going to compete in that one tournament. And here I am, maybe one of the couple people from America. America's not really known for Kyokushin Karate in general, not yet, compared to over in like Russia or Japan, where you see dojos everywhere across Japan, across Russia. It's very popular out there. But Kyokushin Karate over here, there's very few dojos. I could maybe count with 2 fingers. Yep, compared to the hundreds of dojo over in Japan or Russia. Yep.
That's kind of crazy. How much the cultural aspect can lead to, a lot of the nuances that I mean, kind of lay itself via a field, but also, because you were mentioning, the sensei's kind of adapting the style of this, to make it more palatable for another audience and what have you. Do you think those little iterations like that kind of take away from the, I guess, the traditional sense, or and it kind of spun off in different iterations, right? You've got Kempo, Kyokushin. There's a litany of it, but do you think it dilutes some of the original lineage?
With any martial arts, I do agree that if you want to popularize it, the authenticity of it does diminish a little bit. For example, maybe BJJ as it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as it expands, you could already see maybe compared to when it first began with the Gracies, the authenticity of it might diminish quite a bit since there's more tournaments now in BJJ, no gi. It starts becoming a sport rather than a martial art. So if you want to win this tournament in a sport aspect, the self-defense aspect of it may diminish because now your goal is to not only to protect yourself, but more so to win this competition. So in a way, Kyokushin Karate, when it first began to now, I do say that you have to be careful trying to keeping the authenticity as you grow it and make it more popular, especially with tournament style. Now you're focused on winning the tournament within the tournament rule set versus what Kyokushin Karate or Karate was intended to be. So that's one of the reasons why I started competing in MMA is because not only do I want to be the very best in Kyokushin Karate rule set, I also want to make sure that what I'm doing is authentic and it could apply to not only the Kyokushin Karate rule set, but fighting in general.
Now that makes perfect sense. Which, I mean, you're going from a traditional stand-up background, right? Now going into CSW, which again, another traditional aspect of martial arts, but this time, primarily catch wrestling, right? I mean, obviously, there's a lot. Eric Paulson is one of the great purveyors of, going and trying out what works and what doesn't work and bringing it back to, a North American palette and kind of mixing it all together. But I mean, going from a striking background, a traditional striking background, to a grappling based background. Obviously, you knew what grappling was, but did you have any hangups? Because obviously, distance is different, in catch wrestling versus any striking discipline and what have you. So, was there hangups like, when you first started at CSW?
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, I guess I'm probably not the only one, but any like striking base go to MMA, you're gonna have problems when it becomes the fight goes to the ground, right? So my very first day at CSW, I could share some experiences. We started off in the fight practice. They invited me over to the fight practice. I went in. The kickboxing sparring was okay, right? I had no issues with that primarily, but when it became to the ground, yeah, I did take a little bit beating on the ground for sure. It got mounted on, and next thing I know, I have this guy punching me in the face, and my head bouncing off the mat, getting a bloody nose, and things like that. But that really did open my eyes. I was like, wow, there's so many more different aspects to fighting than what I'm used to. Right? I'm only used to punching and kicking. There's grappling, there's ground fighting, and that kind of really actually intrigued me into training MMA rather than discourage me.
Yeah, so now, Mr. Yamamoto-san, now we're in CSW and we're grinding. We're getting our face pounded into the mat, bloody nose and all that. You know what I'm saying? But we keep coming back and we're grinding. So now we're moving towards competition. When did you start your amateur career?
So I trained at CSW for a good maybe 2 or 3 years before I had my first amateur match. I had a lot of things going on during that time. My father was not feeling well during that time, and I also wanted to compete one last time in the Kyokushin Karate World Weight Category tournament when I was around 23 years old. Then my plan was to win that, then convert over to just MMA competition alone. But shortly after the tournament, my dad was not feeling so well during that time, and he did pass away. Unfortunately, he was still 54 during that time. But I already had a schedule. I already had a schedule to fight 2 weeks after my dad happened to pass away. But instead of canceling that fight, my dad, I knew my father was always with me when it became to training martial arts, and I didn't want to cancel that fight just because, of that event. So I had my debut at U of MMA during that time. I was still like 23 years old. 23 years old. It was only a week or two after my dad passed away, but I ended up getting that victory.
Do you remember who you competed against?
I think that was another karate practitioner during that time. His name was Michael Woods. I think he had his Shotokan background during that time. But everybody was expecting it to be, a punching and kicking match. But yeah, I trained with under Josh Barnett, so I ended up just taking him to the ground and finishing it there.
Hey, I believe that this is the exact date that I was talking about. Did your mother accompany you to this weigh-in?
I think so. Yeah, my mother was. Yeah, you might have
seen
my mother
this.
during that time. Yeah, she was very supportive of me as well. Yeah, my parents were very supportive. Not your average Asian family saying you gotta study, get good grades. That was important too, but maybe more important was martial arts.
That's right.
As weird as that sounds,
Yeah, that term Bushido gets thrown around a lot, but a lot of people don't really understand the true meaning. They don't really understand it. They don't really live it. You are a prime example of Bushido and living it inside out. And this is another reason why we have to get you here, man. So I really thank you for making this trip. But so now you ran through Mr. Woods. So now what?
Then I did have a few more amateur fights after that. I saw you quite a bit in those events, Pius, back in the day when we were competing in MMA. Yep. So after a few more matches, I ended up going fighting professionally when I was about 25 years old.
Whoa. Hey, you were in there with P-Rod. Is it P-Rod? J-Rod? What's his name, Woods?
D-Rod. Rodriguez.
D-Rod. Hey. Shohei has been in there with some killers, man. Some straight killers. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's doing really well in UFC right now.
I thoroughly enjoyed your match with him, man. It was at the highest level. At the highest level, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, he was a very tough opponent, very strong. But after the match, also a very respectable individual as well. During that time, we used to train. Josh used to have our group training, over in Tap Out, LA. It was in downtown LA during that time. But I would see D-Rod once in a while, like training on his own, doing his own thing while we were training on the side. But I would see him at the gym, hustling and doing his own thing, getting his own training in. Sometimes we were training over there. Very respectful guy. And even till now, if I see him, I'll say, "Hey, what's up?" It's good to see my former opponents, doing well right now.
Which
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling.
Which I gotta ask you guys, right? Because you two are tenured vets of U of MMA. Obviously, as I sit here, I have a California state title ahead of me, right here, and for California amateur MMA, even before it almost predates the Camo state title, the California state title, in the sense that a lot of people cut their teeth when we're talking about you both, Voodoo, Shohei, Dino Rodriguez, Dominic Reyes, I mean, the list goes on and on. So, I mean, you've literally got people from UFMMA that litter the halls and the locker rooms of UFC, WWE, Bellator, and AEW. It's crazy. So, do you both look back on that time and that promotion specifically as one of great acclaim?
Take it, Shohei.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, that to be able to compete in the amateur scene for UMMA, I think um, it was a really good experience. I would say not many promotions carry themselves in a professional manner that UFMMA does, and they really promoted the up and coming fighters during that time. Unfortunately, they don't have it anymore for some reason. The event is not continuing, but during that time, I would say it's probably one of the best amateur promotions they had in California during that time.
I totally agree with Shohei. I totally agree with Shohei. The number one amateur organization in California at the time. The only one that rivals was in Vegas, and that's tough enough. And if you can't make it to Vegas, the U of MMA was a it factor, and it was in downtown LA, across the street from the Staples Center, Club Nokia. It doesn't get any better than that, man. I mean, we are in the same dressing rooms as the Snoop Dogs and the DMXs and all. We are using the same, you know what I'm saying? Same dressing room. And this was it. I had so much fun, man, as an amateur, man. All my fights were with the U of MMA. I fought seven matches with them, and like he said, man, the professionalism was second to none. Second to none. I thoroughly enjoyed myself as a U of MMA alumni.
It's really kind of wild. I just kind of think to it, and again, it's not just MMA, right? The annals of MMA, but also pro wrestling. You had Scorpio Sky compete, Dara Briento, who's now Sonya Deville in the WWE. So it's actually there is one card, one UFMMA card where literally it's Scorpio Sky, right? Voodoo, and then Sonya Deville. So when you think about it, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild.
Yep. I mean, I was not really into pro wrestling during that time, but I did see a lot of arts and photos on the wall, and I knew this was the place. If you wanted to compete in MMA, amateur, this is the place to start. And they took care of their fighters really well. They represented you really well. The promotion was up to par, above anything else during that time. Wouldn't you say so, Pius?
I would say so, man. 1,000%, man. 1,000. Hey, even as an amateur, I felt like I was professional because my surrounding was so professional. I was an amateur fighter, but because the level, the production level was so high, I had no choice but to elevate my own game and treat it like as if I was a professional, even though it was an amateur event. I mean, I enjoyed myself a great deal. And going back to Shohei, so now you did your thing as an amateur. Now you crossed over into the professional ranks. Where did you start and where did you go, Shohei?
So during that time, I mean, throughout my whole MMA fighting career, Josh Barnett decided to take me under his wing. So every single fight, just about every single fight during that time, Josh would come and corner me for his fight. So after I started fighting professionally, the first match he was able to get for me was over in Pancras, over in Japan. Usually, for a debut, not that many people are able to go and compete overseas at a big promotion that has a long history. such as Pancras. So I was very fortunate to be able to get a debut over in Pancras over in Japan, and I won my first match. Very tough opponent. Actually, he was a little bit smaller than me. He's featherweight guy that decided to step up one last minute to fight me in lightweight. So that was my very first experience fighting over in Japan in a big promotion called Pancras.
Now, in terms of your development, right? I mean, that's some pretty high stakes, right? Pancrase, and it's funny because I've actually got a Minoru Suzuki figure
Oh
here.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely,
sure.
and was able to see him wrestle 3 times during his excursion here in the U.S. So it's, I mean, literally walking glory. But I mean, fighting for a promotion like that your first time out versus maybe a smaller SoCal promotion or what have you. Did that further your resolve, or did you feel a little bit of the butterflies in the stomach?
Well, competing overseas was not so new to me because I've been doing it ever since I was like 8 years old. So I used to always go compete in Kyokushin Karate when I was 8, 9 years old, going up to high school. So going overseas to compete was not particularly anything new to me, but um, I was gifted this opportunity by the Pancras promotion and through Josh, and it forces you to actually hold yourself accountable and hold yourself at the highest standard possible because you're given this opportunity. Your coach believes in you, everyone around you believes in you, so you can't let yourself down or anybody else down. So does elevate my game in a way because of that experience. And throughout my professional career, I decided I still keep that. I still kept that high intensity, and yeah, went from there. Mhm.
Yeah. So Shohei, now you went to Japan. You're in Japan. Uh, Pancrase. After Pancrase, where did you go? Tell us the process until this point.
Okay, so I fought in Pancras for my debut, and I had also had I fought in a local promotion during that time. It was called CXF.
Yes.
And I also fought in different promotions over in Seattle. Let's say,
Oh,
oh,
hold up,
I
Shohei.
fought a couple times in,
Hold up, man. Hold up, Shohei. No. See, that's what I'm talking about. This guy, man, all humble and stuff. Hey, CXF. Don't forget to mention that you became champion at CXF, bro.
oh yeah, I was gonna get there, but before
Okay,
that, yeah,
okay.
yeah, for
All
sure.
right.
But before then, I fought over in India. It's called a Super Fight League. So it was like a tournament style bracket where they have you fight. It's a little bit different. You're not fighting just by yourself. It's like a team bracket. So you would represent a team. There was about 4 or 5 people during that team, and whoever has the most victory would go off and fight in this 1 month long tournament style bracket. So if your team goes on, you would keep on fighting every single weekend, right? So eventually, I was planning to stay there for. Josh sent me out there. Hey, I gotta fight for you in India against in this new promotion called Super Fight League. They want you to stay out there for a month, about a month, and hopefully you could get a couple fights every single week, or you get a fight every single weekend. I went over there. I thought Joshua was gonna be there. No, I ended up going by myself over to a place that I never ever been to over in India in New Delhi. Luckily, when I went over there, there were some other fighters and coaches in the American team. So at least somebody was able to speak English, and I was able to relate to them. But yeah, I stayed out there for a month. My very first match I had, I did win by decision, unanimous decision. I fought against Ardani Mora, a very tough guy, durable. At the end of round one, he ended up getting me in a Kimura, and last 10 seconds of the round one, he actually tore my right shoulder. So you could see in the fight video, but my hand is literally going somewhere it shouldn't be going, right? So during that last 10 seconds, I was on the verge of tapping, but during that time, I asked my corner, he actually said, "You only have 10 seconds left," and I felt like Josh was there, telling me, even though he wasn't there, but I know he's watching live, right? Then somewhere inside of my head, I hear his voice. 5 seconds left, 10 seconds left, and I felt like he was there. So I was like, "Oh, screw it, I'm not gonna tap. I came all over here, all the way to India to compete. I'm not gonna give up, whatever it takes." I let my shoulder rip. Then that was the end of round one. Then round two, round three, I fought through it with a torn ligament in my shoulder. I would throw a punch and I feel my shoulder giving out. So yeah, I mean, I fought basically at the end of round three. My right arm wasn't moving, so I was fighting basically with my left hand. Mm-hmm. But after the match, we're like, "Hey, man, great fight." We ended up getting a beer, drinking afterwards at the hotel, and we talked about it. "Hey, man, like, can't believe you didn't give up during that time. Like, I never put on a kimura against somebody and not have them tap after their arms going, the other way." So yeah, we shared our experience a little bit, our life experiences, and we cracked open a beer afterwards.
As a sidebar, I'm sorry, Woods. I'm very curious. As a sidebar, what was India like? India itself, the people, Now you're outside of MMA. Now you're walking around the streets and you're seeing all these thousands and millions of people. What was your experience like in India?
So during that time, MMA in India, not many people knew about it. So they would say MMA, they would think maybe like boxing or something like that. So a lot of the people never actually experienced MMA. So it was something new. That event, the Super Fight League they had during that time, was promoted on the ESPN Sports over in India. So a lot of the guys that was working at the hotel that I was staying at would actually watch our fight live on ESPN during that time. And that event, because of the promotion and the fighters that came and made a great event, the viewing in India was number 2 out of all the sports. So MMA was number 2 in all the sports over in India. The very first one, the most popular one, was we lost by cricket during that time. Yep. So MMA, I'm glad I was able to go over and fight in India and introduce to the country a little bit of what MMA is over there, because they have never seen it out there. It's something brand new.
You're a bit of a pioneer then, right? Like going one-on-one with, I mean, literally, cricket is India's national sport. And if it isn't officially, it should be recognized as such. And I think in many Indian households, it is. But I mean, that's kind of crazy, kind of, going overseas. And again, yes, you've competed internationally, but in another discipline, right? And it's kind of fun because your trip to India sounds eerily similar to your teammate Alyssa Garcia's trip, sponsored by Josh, to Thailand, thinking that Josh was going to go, and then it's just like that. But she felt the War Master's presence, but not in the physical sense.
Well, training under Josh and being under his wing, I felt like he taught us a lot more than just fighting itself. And a lot of it was he showed us, including myself, my teammate, maybe Alyssa Garcia, Victor Henry, AJ Bryant, not only techniques of fighting, but also his philosophy and his way of thinking in life as well. So one of the life lessons that I learned from Josh is everything is not permanent. It's temporary, right? So everything you do, make sure you go 100%. Mm-hmm. Because you never know, anything could happen. We're only here temporary. So if you're going to do one thing, go all the way.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, coming, you have your first fight in Japan, right, for Pancrase, that which is a historic promotion in the laurels of MMA history. We recite such champions as Bas Rutten and your coach Josh Barnett, right, and then going over to India and fighting there, and obviously, there's some spaces in between. Your CXF run, your title run, also. But it's kind of cool that, like, pretty early on, you're getting this international experience in MMA versus karate, which, I mean, development wise, as a person, not just a fighter, as a person, it's kind of making you realize, like, in some ways, how hard the aspect of growing as a martial artist is, but also as a person, hey, I don't have it that bad.
Oh, for sure. Once you go experience, that was my first time experience actually going to a third world country such as India. The people over there are some of the nicest people you encounter. You encounter. Um, but right when you step outside the hotel or my hotel that I was staying at, you could clearly tell they don't have it as well as we have it over here. The hotel I was staying at is a very nice hotel, kind of gated hotel. But right when you step out of the gate, you could tell it's India. You could tell, yeah, it's India. There's no pavement on the streets. You could clearly tell that the people over there, many of the people over there are struggling just for basic necessity, water, food, and that was a big shock to me during that time, because the only other countries I've been to was America, Canada, Japan. So I only been to like well-off country, and that was my first time experiencing the hardships of the people that live in third world countries.
Yeah. I know that feeling, Shohei. I know that feeling. I was born in America. I spent 10 years in West Africa, Nigeria. I know that third world country feel, you
Mm.
know? And your experience was from rich to poor. I went from poor to rich. So when I came out here and I saw the abundance, I was like, whoa, you guys got it good out here, And it helped me keep my mind straight. It helped me keep my mind straight. I mean, navigating through South Central LA was easy for me because I've seen worse than South. I mean, South Central has, its gang problems, but I've had that experience. I've had uh armed robber experience. You know what I mean? Which is a little bit more than gangbanger. So coming to America, I'm able to navigate through the hood easy. Because navigating through West Africa, Nigeria is not easy. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So coming here, even though South Central and all these low income areas are low income compared to where I come from, this is a cakewalk. And it was a great addition to my schema to help me create the right map to help me succeed in America. You know what I mean?
Sure. One of the things that really stuck out to me, the experience out there, was when I step outside the hotel, outside the gate, we would sometimes go and explore the real India. We're staying in New Delhi, and every single time I would get maybe like a snack or something, like a drink. Um, there would be children coming out, and yes,
I
asking
know.
for
I
it.
know.
Yeah, for sure. So, I would buy a couple and maybe one for myself if I needed something, and I knew the children are gonna come, so I would, pass them out in a way. But it's very difficult, seeing those kind of things, because as you're growing up and over in the States, as I was growing up, I never encountered those kind of things. I never had issues with, water, food, basic necessity. Everything was kind of like handed down to me in a way.
Mhm. Hey, I came out here and I'm like, what? A washing machine? I ain't gotta wash clothes with my own hands. Oh, easy.
Yeah, see, like if you're born out here, you don't realize those kind of things. For sure. So it definitely changes your perspective, if you step out of the country. Whether it doesn't have to be a third world country, you can just go outside. You experience the culture, experience the people, just experience different life, and that's one of the things that competing in MMA and karate, it kind of expanded a new horizon for me as I was traveling to other places, traveling to different countries and get to experience the culture out there. Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of cultures, the culture of the team that is UWF USA, right, and in conjunction with CMMA Fitness in South Bay, California, in Gardena specifically. I mean, it's been kind of a busy month for you guys. We have Victor Henry winning the Lights Out Bantamweight Championship. Brandon Alves just won the 559 title up in Lemoore, California. AJ Bryant fought the last week for Lights Out Extreme Fighting after a pretty long sabbatical, people pulling out and what have you. And Victor Henry, the aforementioned LXF Bantamweight Championship, is actually making its long-awaited, and it's been too long. What the
Yep.
hell has been the UFC doing? But finally makes his UFC debut tonight in a short couple of hours. But I mean, that's got to be cool for you, somebody that they've helped you develop, you've helped them develop, and seeing them, attain what the end game was, a sliver of it at least.
Yeah, for sure. Victor Henry is fighting the UFC tonight. Make sure you guys catch it. It's been long overdue for him. Actually, because of the whole COVID thing, Victor was scheduled to fight close to maybe fighting for the Rising Championship over in Japan, but because of all of the COVID complication, that got pushed aside. But now he's finally he won the LXF Championship a couple weeks ago, and he's finally making a debut over in UFC right now. So tonight, so it's good to see him building his success and building his moving forward with his career. But it's always good to see your teammates like going out there competing and being successful. And in a way, they help you contribute to your career in a way. And if you could return them by being a good training partner and helping them prepare for the fight, that's even more enjoyable because you know that their success, you kind of help them one way or another, and you're able to be a small part of it.
No, absolutely. It takes a village. That's the adage, right? To raise some people up, but and that one person that is affected by the village, right? You basically trade hats, right? Where you're the person getting ready for a fight, and then once that is over, you're back into fight camp, but it's not your fight camp, it's theirs, and what have you. And you have this mutual language, this transaction, this language that you're speaking, with your bodies and what have you, that are ultimately leading each other to success.
Yeah, like me personally, I'm not competing anymore. I had a very serious neck injury a couple years ago during my last match. My right arm was completely paralyzed during the match. I went for a double leg, and I heard something like crack or pop in my neck. Right. Then the opponent sprawled, and he was on top of me. And as I got up, I noticed my right arm. I couldn't feel anything. Or I could feel it, but I could not move. It had no motor nerve signal going down to my arm. So basically, I was fighting with one arm the last 1 minute of the match before my coach, Josh Brennan, threw in the towel. But ever since that neck injury, I'm off of fighting. But even to this day, I go out and spar with my teammates whenever whenever they get together, and I still contribute to the team as much as I can, help them prepare for the fights and stuff.
So, I mean, is that like, I mean, are you formally retired from MMA or?
As far as competition, I thought about until very recently stepping back into the cage, but even till now, um, everyday activity is fine. Like it doesn't bother me. Like driving and things like that. Sparring maybe occasionally is fine. But when the training becomes intense, I do feel my right arm starting to give in a little bit. For example, it's going to be harder and harder for me to even bring up my hand as my arm gets fatigued. And it's a little bit different from like muscle injury. This is a nerve injury. So I don't think I'm able to just, even through rehab, like it would help in a way. I did some rehab to help it help, but to this day, it's not 100%. So to be able to go fight in the cage against these super athletes, right? It's just, I want to make sure if I'm going to step in the cage, I'm going to be close to 100% or just making sure my limbs are working correctly. Because the cost could be devastating in a way, as you can see. So I wouldn't step in there at this moment. I don't think I would step in back into the cage anytime soon.
Shohei, have you looked into stem cells?
Stem cell. Josh was telling me about stem cell therapy. I mean, I did get surgery in my neck, but that's not stem cell. Basically, what they did was between my C5 and C6, they put a plastic disc. So they cut open from the front of my neck, go all the way back, and insert it like a plastic disc, and gave me a new disc. So there's space between the C5 and C6 vertebrae where your nerve goes down your arm. So they need a little space during that time. Give it a little space so it has enough room to recover, as much as possible. But at this point, it's been over 2.5 years, and it's not 100% back to normal yet. So, maybe the next option would be stem cells. Stem cells.
Yeah, the reason I mention it is Felicia O. She is a super grappler champion, no gi super champion. I'm sure you're familiar with her, Felicia O.
Uh-huh.
Well, she did the stem cell therapy, and
Oh.
she's moving around quite much better than she was. Because when I was at Big John's, um, she always trains. She's like you, very tough minded. She'll go through anything. She'll run through a wall if she has to get the objective met. And the body broke down, and she did a couple of sessions, and it's been fantastic since. She's improving. She's still competing. You know what I mean? So you might want to look into that. I can hook
If you
her
don't
up
mind,
with you if you want.
what kind of surgery did she have? Like, what did she injure?
She didn't have surgery. Her back, I'm
Back.
sure it's nerves in her back started messing with her. But I would link you up with her so you can get more information directly from her.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it,
No
Finest.
doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Now, in terms of kind of almost putting there is a bit of a kind of a loosely open door in terms of your MMA career, but as a martial artist, just because you aren't stepping into the cage doesn't mean the martial art practice depletes. You as a practitioner of martial arts, your coaching classes and what have you. And the reason why I kind of point to this is because we've seen it. We know guys and girls that might stay in the cage a little bit past their sell date and what have you, and because they have a hard time stepping away. But through your coaching and what have you, and still being able to spar sometimes and what have you, does that make it a little easier to kind of maybe walk away from the sport and competing aspect of it, because you're still
Mhm.
actively a martial artist?
Well, in the beginning, I did have I'm not gonna lie to you, I had quite a difficult time transitioning. Every single day when you're, competing, every single day, the first thing you think about is preparation for your next match. What time you're gonna get up, start off your day. What time you're gonna go to training. What time you're gonna start, the second training, and what you're gonna accomplish during that training session. To all of a sudden now you have basically you have nothing to think about after that. But aside from that, after going through that phase, I'm a martial artist, so anything I do is not just only revolved around just fighting and competing. Like, I'm gonna be training for the rest of my life, either way. Maybe coaching along the way, and my goal down the line is to open up my own karate dojo, Kyokushin Karate Dojo. Maybe around, I'm thinking around Southern OC, maybe in the next couple of years or so.
Wow, that's kind of breaking news. That's amazing, and as it kind of nears the holidays, Christmas specifically. I lost my dad in Christmas, and that was a huge blow. But as somebody whose dad was absolutely instrumental in your development as a martial artist, right? I think a really amazing way to kind of make whole all of the sacrifices that he made through your endeavors is starting a school yourself, because there might be on the mats a young, male, even female Shohei Yamamoto with a similar story of their mom and dad taking them for training and what have you, and really being ardent. And just like your senseis in downtown LA, well, you're that to them, which is a nice little way to kind of bring it full
Yeah,
circle.
sure. I think that's my in a way, that's my meaning of life. Passing it down to the next generation. Um, so everything I do, even teaching the children, I take it with great pride. Even though they don't have to be the next world champion or anything like that, one thing I do would like for them to learn through karate and martial arts is a quality or something that they learn that they could pass on and improve in their daily life. If it's a plus for them in their daily life, then I take that as a plus.
I love it. I love it. Which and
Yep.
again, two great, ambassadors of U of MMA alumnus, right? Because you guys are both still, even though maybe the cage door has closed for the final time, but you guys are both plying your trade for the next generation of martial artists. So I mean, for that, I thank you, because I think
Yep.
the little descendants of Voodoo Maximus and Shohei Yamamoto are going to be virtuous community members.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think Pius would probably think this, most likely think the same way. I know he works with children and everything, so he takes great pride in what he does. I take great pride in what I do, and it's all about passing on to the next generation now.
That's right. Say the one thing about the martial art is it's not something that we do. It's who we are. It's a lifestyle. It's not something that we take off and we put down at the end of the day. Like the football players, they put on that armor, but once practice is over, they take that stuff off. Me, I don't take it off. Shoei doesn't take it off. You yourself, according to Woods, you don't take it off. You're a martial artist yourself. You know what I mean? This is who we are. This is what we are. And just because we're not being combative means it's over. It's not over. It's not over. So the combative part is something that Shohei really really loved, right? Because this is the easiest way for him to express that martial artist that he is through combat. Right now, he's got to find another way, right? And that's teaching the kids. Before I actually started martial arts, I was already teaching the kids, right? I was already teaching the kids. So when I jumped into competition, it was easy to go back and forth. It was easy to go back and forth. And competition actually taught me new things that I can teach my kids. That's actually real, right? I tried this in a cage and it didn't work. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. It made that lesson very easy, for me to teach the kids. So now that I'm not active in the cage, I'm not retired. I'm not actively in the cage right now. You know what I mean? But I'm still able to watch someone like a Shohei Yamamoto perform and see things that he's doing, and then take those things and I teach that to my students, my own kids as well. So the martial artist journey is never over. 90, 100, it's never over. Never ever over.
I don't know if I'll be throwing high kicks or anything like that when I'm, down the line, but I'll still be training. Still be training,
That's right.
passing it down for sure.
That's right.
I want to see a 90-year-old Shohei Yamamoto throwing high kicks. So that's just me. That's just me. But obviously, Shohei, there have been a lot of people that have contributed to your success, both personally and professionally. So take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way, my man.
Yeah, well, appreciate my sensei, Shion Takunaka for taking me on this martial arts journey ever since I was 7 years old when I first stepped into his downtown LA dojo. Even till now, I'm not competing in Kyokushin Karate, but I do support his dojo. I teach at the Fountain Valley Dojo location even till now, and I'm still contributing in Kyokushin Karate, even though during the time, even when I was competing at MMA, I never thought about myself stepping out of Kyokushin Karate. In a way, I was doing Kyokushin Karate inside the MMA cage. So that's one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have, especially in the karate community, is I stepped away from Kyokushin Karate. No, I just took it on a different league. Kyokushin Karate was built around the founder, Masao Oyama. He went over to America, fought against boxers, fought against pro wrestlers. But nowadays, just a lot of the political reasons they have in Kyokushin Karate, they're very strict on what events you could compete. You're only allowed to compete in Kyokushin Karate competitions. They don't like you competing in other venues. So in a way, since I was doing it in America, I had a little bit more freedom compared to the people that were doing it in Japan. If it was in Japan, honestly, I think they would maybe even have me step away from Kyokushin Karate completely. So I wouldn't be able to maybe train officially in the Kyokushin Karate dojo anymore, or be able to open up a dojo down the line if I was to be exiled. So in a way, I was able to do this because number one, I'm in America, and also number two, Shion Taku Nagasaka, my karate instructor, is very supportive and whatever I wanted to do. And also Josh Barnett, my coach Josh Barnett, that took me under his wing throughout my MMA career. And even till now, even after I'm not competing, he still reaches out to me and see how I'm doing. So it expands within not just the fighting itself, but in a way, he's like my life mentor. And I think that's one of the differences between combat sports and a martial artist is you don't just end when the competition ends. You take it on to your life, right? And that's what I intend to do with martial arts. I intend to take it on to my everyday life and help improve myself and help improve the next generation, the upcoming generation.
I love it. I love it. Now, before we go, obviously you have insight to one Victor Henry like I don't think anybody else outside of Josh Barnett who'll be cornering him tonight. So with that all being said, what are we expecting? Not so much a prediction. I mean, you can do it if you so fit, but what are we going to expect for in the if you're a loyalist to UFC and have never seen Victor Henry before, never seen his deep championship win or his lights Alex F championship win, right? What are people going to see amass as they tune in to ESPN Plus tonight? out of your teammate Victor Henry?
Well, you're gonna see Victor Henry at his best. He's prepared all his MMA career. As far as I know Victor since I was like 19 years old. I'm 32 right now, but we've been teammates ever since day one. And he's one of the hardest working individual, honestly, that I've ever seen. Not only in MMA and everything, karate, just in life in general. He's the hardest worker out there, and I know he's gonna perform really well. And he's gonna take this opportunity and take it up and perform really well tonight. I know. I believe in him for sure.
Well, we believe in you. Voodoo, what say you?
Hey, Shohei. I know you are traditional. I know you are of the old way. It's deeply rooted in you. I do have one last question for you, and I want to get your perspective. So the current state of mixed martial art is such that it's moving towards the sports entertainment way, right? In which one has to be very, very entertaining with their speech, not only with their fist. So according to Woods and I, we talk all the time, and we understand that there's the Trinity. There is of course, the combative skill. There is also the skills on the mic, and finally, one's platform. Right? It is these three combination that makes a successful sports entertainer today. What is your take, Shohei, on it? What do you like? For example, the most publicized individual will be, for example, Conor McGregor. A lot of people say he trash talks and woo woo woo, and he does this. Um, what is your take on these types of performers?
I think as a sports entertainer, that's very important. But at the same time, I'm a martial artist, so it's very important to not lose my roots in everything I do. Why I do this, the purpose of this. For example, if I forget about all that and just go on the entertaining route and just not be true to who I am and why I started this, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of why I started in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's based on the individual. Some people, not everybody is a martial artist, not everybody's a fighter, but just be true to yourself and go back to your roots on why you started in the first place.
Okay, so you're telling me do what you need to do, but don't forget who you are. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. I can dig it. So Shohei is not saying don't be flamboyant on the mic. Be flamboyant, but with parameters. Do what you need to do to sell tickets.
If that's the person you are, then be it. Yeah, that's it. That's you. But not everybody's that type of person, so you don't have to force yourself.
Yeah, don't force it. Be who you are loudly. Right?
Yes, sir.
I can dig it, Shohei. I can dig it. Back to you, according to Woods.
Well, the good sister Takeo Powell said, "Hey guys, how are you? We're great. We hope your family's great. And we are going to see some great fights tonight, actually, in about 90 minutes time, as 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, UFC Fight Night. Lewis versus Chris Dawkins. It's going to be wild. But again, a very special highlight with one Victor Henry making his long-awaited UFC debut. But before we go, Shohei, for people that want to get more abreast of what you're doing, especially as you begin the path to maybe starting your own dojo itself, where can they find you, good sir, on social media?
So my Instagram is HEYSHOW, HEY, Hey Shohei. You can also find me or find some information about Kyokushin Karate through KyokushinLA.com. You can find all the dojo locations and the instructors, a little bit of background of Kyokushin Karate itself in America. KyokushinLA.com. Yep. So yeah, if you guys are interested, go ahead and check out that. Check it out. Yep.
Well, yes, definitely go ahead and check it out because that is one of the purest form of stand-up combat that has ever existed, and it's tried and true through generation after generation after generation, and nothing more evident than that forged lineage than one Shohei Yamamoto. Shohei, thank you for joining us here at Voodoo in the Woods. And Voodoo, where can they find you on social media, good sir?
Well, definitely find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook page, Twitter, and all those good stuff. Voodoo Maximus, all day, every day.
And I am According to Woods. You can find me at all those places that Voodoo just said, and everything except for the karate aspect where Shohei said. But you can find it on the social medias, According to Woods, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and all that jazz. But also, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to this very podcast, the Voodoo in the Woods podcast. On Facebook, YouTube, as well as bodyslam.net. So for Voodoo, for myself and for Shohei Yamamoto. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow night rehashing what happened tonight with more Voodoo in the Woods.